Welcome to Music for Dummies. This is the first lesson. We're studying notes and steps. Thanks for joining us. And again, it's welcome. And I've been wanting to make a training video for years. I actually did a long one, and it wasn't as good a quality as I hoped, so I never did put it out the door. But a lot of fantastic material is already on the internet for music, and I encourage you to search, keep looking. If you're a hobbyist, over the years you're going to find different people that help you understand more things different ways, and hopefully I can do something that helps you progress too along your way. Right now I have some friends and relatives that are really hoping to get started, and that's one of the reasons I'm finally spurred on to take some time to make this material, but also hope to help get playing buddies. The guys I'm helping, some of them live close by. I hope I can have some friends to play with. So as we get started here, learning the notes, I want to be like a coach maybe to you. Learn your notes. Might need a little coaching. Have you ever thought about why we call our numbers 1 to 10, or have you thought about how it took you a while to learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and things of that nature? Well, the answer is probably no. You probably haven't wasted a lot of your life worrying about that. Or have you ever thought about why we have the letters A through Z and why we don't have some like the Greek and things? Well, the answer is probably no. Probably haven't wasted a lot of time. Some of us, if you're like me, have a brain where you try to think of these things and you're stuck on it. And I encourage you with the notes, just memorize them. And that's what we're doing today. If you're a person like me that struggled and it's like, what's going on here? And why is this note this? And why is this not here? Just memorize them. Trust me, and we'll move on from there. And it's step one. Just like you learned your numbers, just like you learned your letters, we're going to learn our notes and how we use them and just move on. If that's all you get out of lesson day, you have took a step forward. So again, same with the notes, just learn them, memorize them, and go on. There's a lot of logic, things we might share, reasons I think people picked and did things the way they did with our notation system and notes, but let's just get them memorized and start using them. So here is what I'll call 13 notes. Depending on how you define it, you could say there's 12, because notice we got a C at the beginning and a C at the end, and that's kind of, if you will, the same note. But sometimes we say 13 notes because it includes the beginning and one octave up the scale up. But as you see there, we start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're numbered. We number them. We got note 1, note 2, note 3, but we also call them by letters. You know, a real nerd thing, they're really frequencies or numbers. Somebody could say, play 440 megahertz or something, and that would be pretty hard to do, wouldn't it? This is just a friendlier thing. All they tried to do with note names is help you with an easier name, not confuse you. So they say, play the C note, play the A note. It's just names of frequencies that we call notes. So those notes we have are C, and notice C sharp, and we're going to get into this in a little bit. We'll spend a little more time, but notice that C, when we go right to note 2, goes C sharp, and then it goes right up to a D, goes to what we call a D sharp, and then it goes to an E, and here's where some of us as new students start getting confused. What's going on? It goes from E to F. It goes from E to F, then from F to F sharp, then to G, G sharp, A sharp, then to B, and then right back to C. Notice again, it's a lot like the F. It goes right from B to C. There's no sharp there. And again, what did I tell you? Let's just memorize it. Just memorize it like you learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'll all start making sense in a little bit. Now notice here on future slides, and you can already see it above, what they call sharp looks like a number sign there, doesn't it? And they'll call flat like a B there, the letter B, or like a small b. It looks like a B flat, doesn't it? So here, looking at a piano, you ever noticed, all of us as little kids have probably seen that there's like the white key, and there's a black and a white and a black key, and then there's like two whites together, and the blacks, and then another one with just white key, no black. This hopefully starts to make sense if you've never truly studied this before or learned it before, that just like our rule to the left, when you're looking at a piano board, there's if you find your middle C or a C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. But like our rule says, there is no E sharp. Just go right to F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and on up to the B. Jumps back to a C. No black key. It's right there. So just memorize it again. And we could stay on this slide forever, but you can rewind and play at slow speeds on YouTube. Don't forget that as you're learning music and playing guitar. You can set the speed of the playback in YouTube and things will slow down and you can practice and things of that nature. But memorize C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F. No E sharp, F sharp, or no E sharp, I should have said there. The F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then right to C. Now here's just an interesting different look. If you're into the guitar, here's like the fretboard of the neck of the guitar, and you can see a string here. Like here's like the low E string. And if you look, this is starting to show you, if this hasn't clicked yet, that if I go right from that E, bam, right to an F, and then an F sharp. And if I go up one more fret, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and notice it goes right to C. C sharp, D, etc. So it makes sense once you take the time to memorize these notes and know which ones have sharps and which ones do not. The piano does it this way, the guitar frets do it this way, and every other instrument will work once you know what's going on. And this is just something neat too. I learned this in a math class and years ago. If you take a string, this is for you guitar students, here you are on your E string, and you cut it in half, physics, it goes up one octave. It goes up one octave. So you've noticed on your guitar that E string, or any string, way over to the right here, if you had the whole guitar, above my head there, would be the hole in your guitar. But you cut that string right in half on the 12th fret, and it's one octave up, isn't it? Go back to the E note. And that's because cutting a string in half in physics raises it one octave. You can play in your garage. If you're a younger person, take a string and cut it the length in half, or hold it half the length and pluck it, and the sound will be an octave higher. And that's the way your stringed instruments work. So the next thing I want you to know before we pack it up today is steps with those notes. Once you memorize those notes, it's very simple what a whole step and a half step is. As you can see on our slide up here, a whole step is simply skipping a note. When you start at one note and skip a note, that is a whole step. So look, if we went from C to D, see here at the top, I'm at a C, and if I just jump right to there, to the D, I've skipped a note. That is a whole step. And we have several things noted there. We got examples of, hey, if I went from and just pick any note, an F sharp, and I skipped one, I'd go to a G sharp, skip the G, and I've made a whole step. And we could do as many more examples as we wanted, but if I'm at the E, you just got to remember there's no E sharp. So when I take a whole step from an E, I just skip that next note and I end up on an F sharp. And finally, for examples, if I did that to a B, notice we've went ahead and slammed another C sharp down here. If I go a whole step from a B, I simply skip a note and end up on a C sharp. And it's pretty obvious. If that's a whole step, guess what a half step is? It's simply going to the next note. It's half that of a whole step. So on any note I pick, if I go a half step, I go from like C, bam, right to the C sharp. No skipping of anything. That's a half step. I could go from E to, or from F to F sharp is our second example. I could go from E to F. There's no E sharp. I don't skip anything. That's a half step. And then like from a B to a C is simply a half step because there's no B sharp. So I'm going to demo something here, just a close-up on the hand real quick, that if we did start to apply it to an instrument and you had like a guitar here, if I'm playing that open string, I'm just plucking that top string, my finger could be back here behind the nut, if you would. If I can get that where I can see it here. Very hard. So in a sense, open string, finger here. Once you start, if I just go from each fret, that'd be a half step, half step, half step. I'm just going up to the very next note. Those are all half steps. And so if I started here and I skip one, that's going to be what they call whole step. Whole steps. Whole steps. And if you stick with us, in one of our next video, we'll show you why sometimes a half step and a whole step sounds good. Like, listen to this. This might sound better to you. And we'll tell you why in the next video. So, I know there was probably some boring things, but hope you stick with me and let me teach you a little bit that I have learned over the years.